Here is a number for you: 500 million. That is how many people are running Windows 11 right now on machines they own, on hardware they paid for. And at least once a week, one of those machines does something none of those 500 million people asked for. It pushes an ad. It opens Copilot without permission. It asks again to sign into a Microsoft account just to use a start menu on a computer you bought, that you own. Microsoft did not do this by accident. They did it because they could. Because for 20 years, there was no real alternative that a normal person would actually want to use. That changed on April 24th, 2026. Ubuntu 26.04 LTS just dropped, codenamed Resolute Raccoon. And it is not the Ubuntu you remember fighting with in 2014. This is a polished, fast, AI-ready operating system that is free, private by default, and built to last until 2031. 5 years of guaranteed security updates, no ads, no mandatory account, no Copilot in your face. And Microsoft has no answer for what it just did in 5 very specific areas. This is not a video for Linux enthusiasts. If you have ever sat at your own computer and felt like it was working against you, this one is for you. Let us start with the villain. The villain is not Microsoft as a company, it is a philosophy. It is the belief that an operating system is a product you tolerate, not a tool you control. That philosophy has driven every Windows decision for the past 10 years. And the victim, that is you. The person paying for hardware, paying for a license, and still getting treated like a resource to be harvested. The twist? The most credible challenger to that model is not Mac OS. It is a free open-source Linux distribution that, as of right now, is more polished, more private, and in several key areas more powerful than Windows 11 has ever been. So let us get into it. First, a little context. Ubuntu 26.04 is a long-term support release, which means Canonical commits to security patches and updates until April 2031, and up to 10 years with Ubuntu Pro. It ships with Linux kernel 7.0, GNOME 50 as the desktop environment. And it is the first Ubuntu release ever to ship as Wayland only, dropping X11 as a default session entirely. Those are not just version number bumps. Each one of those decisions represents a deliberate philosophical choice about what an operating system should be. And those choices are precisely what put Ubuntu ahead of Windows on the 5 things we are about to break down. Here is the first one, and it is the one Microsoft refuses to acknowledge publicly. Ubuntu 26.04 does not spy on you by design. Windows 11 does, and there is no way to fully turn it off. I want you to understand the scale of what that means. Since Windows 10, Microsoft has required what it calls telemetry, diagnostic data your PC sends back to Microsoft servers. In Windows 11, you cannot disable all of it through the settings menu. There is no toggle that says zero data, no exceptions. Microsoft has had years to address this. Windows Central, in a piece published in March 2026, listed mandatory telemetry as one of 5 unresolved major Windows 11 issues with no fix on the roadmap. Over 500 million users are reportedly unhappy with the level of system monitoring they cannot opt out of. The data collection is not there to help you. It is there to help Microsoft build better ad targeting, product telemetry, and Copilot training data. Ubuntu collects nothing mandatory. When you set up Ubuntu 26.04, it asks if you would like to share anonymous system information to help improve the OS. You can say no, one click, done. And that choice is respected at the kernel level. There is no background service phoning home. There is no Microsoft account you must sign into to get the full experience. You boot the machine. The machine belongs to you, that is it. Here's the part nobody talks about. The cost of telemetry is not just privacy. It is performance. Every background process Windows runs to collect, package, and transmit your usage data is RAM and CPU time that you paid for with your hardware, being used for something that benefits Microsoft and not you. On a mid-range laptop with 8 GB of RAM, that is a meaningful tax on everything you do. That brings us to number 2. Ubuntu 26.04 is faster where it counts, and Linux kernel 7.0 is why. ZDNet called Ubuntu 26.04 the fastest release yet shortly after launch. That is not a marketing line. Canonical's engineers collaborated directly with AMD and Intel to optimize the CPU scheduler for modern multi-core processors. The result is faster application launch times, better responsiveness under heavy multitasking, and a noticeably snappier daily experience. Ubuntu 26.04 also introduces optional x86-64 v3 package variants, which means if your CPU supports AVX2, BMI2, and FMA instruction sets, and most CPUs made after 2015 do, the system can run those optimized binaries automatically. That is a level of hardware-specific tuning Windows does not offer to everyday users. And then there is GNOME 50. This is the desktop environment that ships with Ubuntu 26.04, and the upgrade from GNOME 46 to GNOME 50 is not incremental. It brings HDR color management, grouped notifications, a completely rewritten notification system, and a Wayland session that is now the only option, not a fallback, not a beta. The default, variable refresh rate support. Fractional scaling that actually works across mixed resolution displays without artifacts or blurring. The gaming benchmarks on Phoronix using an AMD Radeon RX 9070 XT show Ubuntu 26.04 with KDE Plasma 6.6 on Wayland, delivering consistent performance edges over previous versions. This is not a system trying to be good. This is a system that has done the work. Windows 11's display stack, by contrast, is still built around Win32 architectural decisions made when a dual monitor setup was considered exotic. Microsoft has patched over it with layers of abstraction. Ubuntu, rebuilt from the ground up. There is a reason your external display on Windows still occasionally loses its resolution settings after a sleep cycle. Number 3 is the one that should make every developer in the audience sit up straight. Ubuntu 26.04 is now the best operating system for AI and machine learning development. And Microsoft, for all of its Copilot theater, cannot say the same. Canonical's official release statement is explicit. Ubuntu 26.04 ships with native support for NVIDIA CUDA and AMD ROCm, making it the intended platform for AI development and production workloads. We are not talking about getting drivers to work after 3 hours of form browsing. We are talking about first-class day one support. NVIDIA Dynamic Boost is enabled by default on supported laptops. Intel Core Ultra X E2 graphics and Arc Battlemage GPUs are fully supported out of the box. Snapdragon X Elite devices have an ARM64 desktop ISO, and local AI model support is available directly through the Snap package system. Think about what that means for a developer working with LLMs, training pipelines, or edge inference workloads. Your environment is ready when the OS is ready. No WSL workarounds. No compatibility layer. No watching your GPU disappear from a Docker container because Windows decided to update its virtualization stack. You open the terminal, the hardware is there, the libraries are there, you build. Microsoft's answer to this has been Copilot, a cloud-dependent AI assistant bolted onto an OS that still cannot natively run the toolkits developers actually use without Linux subsystem gymnastics. That is not a competitor to what Ubuntu just shipped. That is a distraction. Number 4 is security, and this one goes deeper than most people realize. Ubuntu 26.04 ships with Rust-based core utilities. The sudo command, one of the most security-critical tools in any Unix system, has been replaced with sudo rs, a memory-safe Rust implementation. This eliminates entire categories of vulnerabilities. Buffer overflows, use after free exploits, memory corruption attacks. These are not theoretical threats. They are the attack vectors behind some of the most significant Linux vulnerabilities in the last decade. Canonical looked at the source code, recognized the risk class, and replaced the C implementation with a Rust implementation before a catastrophic exploit made it unavoidable. Full disk encryption is now on by default in Ubuntu 26.04, backed by TPM. Not optional, not something you turn on if you remember. It is there from the first boot. App Armor now prompts users for permission when Snap applications attempt sensitive operations, a behavior that mirrors the app permission model mobile users already expect from Android and iOS. Windows 11 enforces TPM 2.0 as a hardware requirement, which is a defensive posture. But the operating system core itself is still written in C, still carries decades of legacy attack surface, and still has no plans to adopt memory-safe languages at the kernel or utility level. Microsoft has talked publicly about moving to Rust and Windows components, but the timeline is slow and the scope is narrow. Ubuntu has already shipped it. In production, for everyone. Number 5 is the one that hits closest to home. If you have ever tried to run Windows 11 on hardware that Microsoft decided was not good enough, Ubuntu 26.04 will not abandon your machine. Windows 11 already has. Microsoft officially ended Windows 10 support in October 2025. Hundreds of millions of PCs that ran Windows 10 perfectly well do not meet Windows 11's hardware requirements. They are stuck. No more security patches. No more official support. You either buy new hardware or you accept that your machine is slowly becoming a liability. Ubuntu 26.04 LTS runs on a 2 GHz dual-core processor with 6 GB of RAM. And unlike Windows 11, those are recommendations, not hard gates that block installation. There are Ubuntu flavors that run on significantly less. A machine from 2012 with a solid-state drive and a fresh Ubuntu install is a capable, secure, fully supported computer in 2026. That machine in Windows 11 terms? End of life. Liability? Landfill. This is not a small issue. The Environmental Protection Agency estimates that tens of millions of computing devices go to e-waste annually in the United States. Microsoft's hardware cutoff for Windows 11 has been cited by multiple environmental groups as an accelerant to that problem. Ubuntu extended the life of machines that Windows sentenced to death. And with a 5-year standard support window and up to 10 years with Ubuntu Pro, Ubuntu 26.04 will be a viable, secure operating system until April 2036. Windows 11's current end of life is projected for October 2026. After that, we start this whole cycle again. Now here is why all of this matters right now. In May 2026, specifically, Microsoft's free Windows 10 upgrade window is gone. The Copilot PC push is in full effect, which means new hardware is increasingly being sold with AI features baked in at a hardware level that requires Windows 11. The pressure to upgrade, to buy new, to stay in Microsoft's ecosystem has never been higher. At the same time, the backlash has never been louder. Privacy advocates, developers, enterprise IT managers, and everyday users are all asking the same question: is there another way? There is. And it just shipped, fully polished, with a 10-year support guarantee for free. So here's what you can actually do right now. Download Ubuntu 26.04 LTS from ubuntu.com and create a bootable USB drive using Balena Etcher or the Raspberry Pi Imager. You can boot directly from the USB without touching your Windows installation. Run it live, explore it, try your applications, see how it feels on your hardware. No commitment required. If you are a developer, install it in a dual boot configuration alongside Windows. Give yourself 60 days to do your actual work. Your IDE, your terminal, your Docker containers, your Git workflow, entirely in Ubuntu. Track your productivity. You will have the data to make the decision clearly. If you have an older machine that cannot run Windows 11, do not throw it away. Install Ubuntu 26.04. Update it, secure it, use it. It is a fully capable computer again. Spend one afternoon in the privacy settings. Understand what Ubuntu shares and what it does not. Then go back to Windows 11, open the diagnostics and feedback settings, and really read what is being collected. Let the comparison speak for itself. And finally, explore the Ubuntu Pro tier if you are managing devices in a business context. It is free for up to 5 personal machines. The 10-year security maintenance window alone has ROI implications that would make any IT department's head turn. Here is the big picture, and it is worth sitting with for a moment. Operating systems are the substrate of how we work, communicate, create, and think. When that substrate is designed to harvest us, to push us towards subscriptions, to drain our older hardware into obsolescence on a commercial schedule, something important is lost. We lose agency, we lose trust, we lose the feeling that our tools are actually ours. Ubuntu 26.04 is not perfect. No operating system is, but it represents a fundamentally different set of values, built on the belief that software should serve the person running it, not the company that shipped it. And in 2026, with AI being woven into every layer of computing, with privacy concerns at an all-time high, with e-waste becoming a genuine crisis, those values are not just idealistic. They are practical. They are urgent. They are a reason. If this video made you think differently about the machine on your desk, do one thing before you close the tab. Drop a comment telling me which of these 5 things surprised you the most. I read every one. And if you are already running Ubuntu or thinking about making the switch, subscribe, because we are going to keep pulling on this thread. And the next video goes somewhere that even most Linux users are not expecting.